Hi, this is Katie.
And I'm Sam.
This is Hope in Every Sense. So we're starting a new series of videos where we're going to go over the five senses. Or actually, there's seven. We'll get into it. And how triggers of how you can look what triggers that for people who have sensory processing difficulties, and how you can sort of we hope, like, if you look at this, maybe it will help you figure out if you feel like something's going on with a kid, maybe will be helpful, because I find some of this would have been a little bit more helpful. Because as we go over this, I'm going to talk a little bit about, like, how people keep talking about, oh, this is what to look for, this is what to look for. But then there's some stuff that they didn't say to look for, and that was what was going on, and we were like, oh. Okay, so the first one I want to talk about, again, is even though we think of five senses, there's actually seven senses that are, and one is vestibular. Vestibular is, so when sensory processing difficulties can affect the vestibular system, which is responsible for balance and spatial orientation. So that's something that a lot of people might not think of, but it's a little bit, I think, more obvious than, like, oh, I just don't want to eat peas, or, stuff like with taste and whatever,
Right.
So these can manifest in two totally different ways too, which is also worth confusing, because I think a lot of times we were told to look for the hyposensitivity ones and not the hypersensitivity ones.
Right, exactly.
So signs of hypersensitivity is avoidance of movement activities. Motion sickness can be one. Discomfort with head position changes, and what that means is, like, if they don't want you to tilt your head a certain way, like if you're, like, washing their hair and you have to tilt their hair back, and they're like, no, I'm not doing that, And then they may have a lot of cautious movements, like preference for slow, deliberate movements, and they don't like, having to go really fast all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So signs of hyposensitivity, sorry, the other one is the one I'm used to saying more often, is excessive movement seeking. And that's the one I think they tell you to look for more.
Yeah, that's the one that you hear about more common.
Yeah,
like
that's the one you hear about more common, but that's not the one she was, that's not the one she was doing. We'll get into that. But risk-taking behaviors such that,
jumping off of couches.
Yeah, maybe, like, like, it's just, like, they're engaging into the maybe unsafety or an underestimation of danger or need to be for heightened sensory input. So maybe, like, like, they go really, really, really fast on their bike before they're ready, or they, like, maybe they're spinning out, like, spinning around to the point where they just, like, fall over or something all the time, or something. Poor balance and coordination. Frequent stumbling. So, obviously, that one's pretty obvious. And then delayed motor skills development, which, again, we said if Junebug had that, it would have been really obvious to us. But again, going up to the top, that's just what she had. She had avoidance of movement activities. So it wasn't that she didn't crawl or walk or anything in order of when she was supposed to. It's that she did it, when she did do it, she was doing it very meticulously. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Where she wouldn't even show her she was rolling over and stuff. Yeah. It was until she had it, like, perfectly down, and then it was like, oh, look, mommy, I can roll over now.
Yeah.
But if we were like, oh, can you roll over? She's like, I'm not sure.
Yeah. I'm not gonna do it.
And walking and all that stuff. And when she walked, she was very deliberate about the way she walked. And also she had this, now this I don't know if absolutely 100% if this is related to this, but she did have the most unique crawling that I've ever seen. Which, we're not showing videos of our kids, so I'm just going to describe it to you. But basically, imagine she tucks one leg underneath her, the other leg goes completely out, and then she's sort of like crab walking the whole way all around, It was really interesting. Now, my grandparents, her great-grandparents, did say that my dad, her grandfather, crawled that way. So this may just be something that was related. I don't know if it has to do with this or not, but it does, it just is, like, it was different. It was cute, everything, but then also, yeah, so, like, when she started walking, she was very controlled about walking, and then I don't think she went to running right away, from what I remember.
No.
She didn't go to running right away. she walked very deliberately for a long time, and then she ran, and then but like when we were at the playground, when she was at the playground, I used to call her my think before she leaps girl. Because there were all the other kids, like the moms were like, "Hey, I'm ready, because the next second you're just gonna jump," you know. She wasn't gonna do that. She was
Yeah.
very deliberately, you know, very deliberately climbed up the equipment, and then she would sit there and she would think about
for a
it,
few minutes.
and then she'd be like, "Mommy, you gotta catch me," or before she would talk, she would just like, you know, like this, you know, "You're gonna catch me," and then she'd make sure I was gonna catch her, and then she would jump.
Yeah.
So she was definitely, definitely, now that I'm reading about this, she was definitely showing this hypersensitivity, not hyposensitivity.
Yeah.
So anyway, I hope that helps some people, because I feel like if we had that list, that some things would have been a little bit more obvious when she was like,
we could have
two.
maybe found this a lot sooner.
Yeah, if we had found this a lot sooner, I think this stuff would have been even obvious when she was like 2.
Yeah.
But you know, again, you're the parents, you have to make your own judgment calls, and maybe if they only have like motion sickness on one thing on the list, you know, it may or may not be, because, you know, kids get motion, like, you know, they get car sick, they just do.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing, is when we would go on long trips, she would get car sick.
Oh yeah,
There
I would
for,
get car sick all the
a
time.
year or two, you know.
I still get car sick, that's why I found out I have, because of the ear thing, you know. I don't do well with traveling. I have to take pills to go anywhere.
Yeah.
To do anything, like even just driving on like highways or whatever, I'm like, nope, need a pill. So, yeah, buddy, what do you think about that? Okay. But anyway, so again, keep following. We're going to talk about more triggers. And also, we have a blog, so check out our website and a blog that goes over all the, if you don't want to wait, you can look at all the different triggers. But this will be going a little bit more into what we felt were June bug triggers, and if we feel that any of these are still her triggers, which I would say yes, to a certain sense, in the sense that like when she's trying something new that's a physical activity, she is very deliberate about it.
Yeah.
She's not gonna just take the jump rope and start trying. She's gonna be like, how do I do this? How do you jump the rope? You know, and we show her videos about jumping rope, and then we practice her, and then we show her jumping rope, and then, you know, and it's so forth and so on. So every like new activity that she does is very deliberate and precise.
Yeah. She's getting a lot faster about it, though.
No, she is. She's starting to figure it out. I think that's because the occupational therapist is helping her with that.
Yeah.
And as she connects more communication with her body, as she gets more and more communication with her body, she's going to be able to do things easier.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for listening, and stay hopeful.
Bye.